Suzanne had always lived a quiet, unremarkable life in her small town, a life punctuated by routine, familiar faces, and predictable days. That all changed one crisp autumn afternoon when an unexpected letter arrived from a notary's office. The letter bore news that would upend everything Suzanne had known. It stated that her neighbor, Margaret, a kind elderly woman who had been a cherished friend and confidant, had left her a mysterious inheritance. Though Suzanne and Margaret were not related by blood, they had shared many casual coffee dates and friendly conversations over the years. Now, as the letter explained in measured, deliberate words, Margaret had chosen Suzanne to receive an unusual gift, an old cabin hidden deep in the woods, along with a set of cryptic maps and instructions that promised to reveal long-buried secrets. At first, Suzanne was flattered by the unexpected honor, though confusion soon mingled with her surprise. Why, of all people, had Margaret chosen her, and what could be so extraordinary about this cabin that it warranted such secrecy? The notary's office had been presided over by a man in a neat blue suit, who explained that Margaret had carefully embedded Suzanne's name in her will during her final days. "Your neighbor trusted you to carry on her work," he had said, sliding a small brass key and a yellow envelope toward her. Though his tone was matter-of-fact, there was an undercurrent of urgency in his words. Suzanne's mind raced with questions as she clutched the key and maps in her hands. After the meeting, Suzanne returned home, her thoughts consumed by the inheritance. Margaret had passed away only 2 weeks earlier, and while Suzanne had grieved the loss of her warm, gentle friend, she could never have imagined that Margaret's final wish would send her on a strange adventure. That evening, Suzanne sat by her kitchen table and studied the envelope's contents. Inside were several faded photographs, a set of hand-drawn maps with red markings on unknown locations, and a letter addressed solely to her. The letter explained that the cabin, located deep in a dense woodland far from civilization, was not merely a piece of property. It was Margaret's research cabin, a place where she had secretly pursued investigations into local mysteries and unsolved crimes. The letter continued, "I have spent years collecting evidence of hidden corruption in our county. I leave my notes, maps, and all the artifacts to you, Suzanne. Deliver them to the proper authorities in the neighboring county, for here they cannot be trusted. This is my final request. Do not bring my findings to the local police." The final sentence, scrawled in a determined hand, sent a shiver down Suzanne's spine. Intrigued and unsettled in equal measure, Suzanne decided to discover the truth behind Margaret's mysterious bequest. She spent the next few days poring over the maps and photographs. The maps depicted familiar areas, the town's outskirts, a nearby river, and a cluster of dense woodland. But they also showed strange markings in red that indicated excavation sites or hidden locations. One map in particular caught her eye. It pointed to an isolated cabin, located about an hour's drive from the notary's office. Though Suzanne had never heard of Margaret owning any such property, the detailed drawings and the notary's instructions left little doubt that this cabin was real and that it held significance. Determined to uncover the mystery, Suzanne set out early one Saturday morning. With the brass key and maps in her purse, she drove her car out of town. The urban landscape quickly faded into wide expanses of farmland, then gave way to dense woodland patches that marked the edge of civilization. The drive was long and quiet, punctuated only by her own anxious thoughts about the secret legacy left by her dear neighbor. After nearly an hour, Suzanne arrived near the coordinates indicated on the map. The cabin was not visible from the road. It lay hidden in a clearing deep within the forest. Realizing that the final stretch was not accessible by car, she parked her vehicle in a sandy ditch and began walking along a narrow, winding trail. The path was rugged and overgrown, the underbrush thick and the ground uneven. Yet, as she trudged forward, Suzanne's resolve only grew stronger. She could feel that this was more than just an inheritance. It was a key to a hidden part of her community's past. About 30 minutes later, Suzanne finally came upon the cabin. It was a small, weathered wooden structure that had clearly seen better days. Its exterior was worn, with rotten patches on the siding and most of the original windows missing. The sight of the dilapidated building startled her. She had never imagined that Margaret, the kindly old lady known for her homemade biscuits and gentle smile, had owned such a mysterious property. With a mixture of trepidation and excitement, Suzanne retrieved the brass key from her purse and inserted it into the lock. The door creaked open with a loud, hollow screech, revealing a dark, dusty interior. Inside, the cabin was an eerie time capsule. The air smelled of stale wood and forgotten memories. Rays of fading light filtered through the broken window frames, illuminating a room filled with cobwebs and old furniture. Suzanne moved cautiously through the space, her footsteps echoing on the creaking floorboards. In one room, she found a portrait of Margaret, a well-worn photograph depicting the old lady surrounded by family, holding two enormous balloons that spelled out 65. The image stirred bittersweet memories of their past conversations and the affection they had once shared. As Suzanne continued her exploration, she began to notice that the cabin held more than just relics of a bygone era. In the main living area, a tattered Persian rug lay in an inconspicuous spot on the wooden floor. Something about it seemed out of place. As she carefully lifted the rug, Suzanne discovered an uneven section of floorboards. Her heart skipped a beat when she realized that the uneven patch was not ordinary. It was the concealed edge of a hatch, nearly invisible beneath the fabric of the rug. With trembling hands, she knelt down and examined the hatch, its metal handle glinting dimly in the weak light. The hatch had clearly been designed to remain hidden, accessible only to someone who knew it was there. Suzanne's mind raced with possibilities. What could be hidden beneath this cabin? Driven by an irresistible blend of curiosity and caution, she pulled the handle upward with all her strength. The wooden cover flipped open with a resounding bang, revealing a dark, gaping hole. For a moment she hesitated, peering into the pitch-black depths below. Then, summoning her courage, Suzanne discovered that a narrow wooden ladder was attached to the side of the hatch. It beckoned her downward, promising answers to the mysteries that had already begun to pile up. After a brief moment of internal struggle, Suzanne stepped onto the ladder and began her descent into the hidden basement. The air grew colder and more musty with each step, and the soft sound of her footsteps mingled with the distant creaks of the old building. At the bottom, she found herself in a spacious room that was clearly different from the rest of the cabin. This basement, long forgotten and left undisturbed for decades, was filled with relics that spoke of a secret life, a secret that Margaret had carefully preserved. The basement was larger than the upper floors, with high ceilings and walls lined with shelves cluttered with old books, trinkets, and peculiar objects. Dust motes danced in the beams of light that seeped through small, grimy windows. In one corner, Suzanne discovered a battered desk covered in yellowed papers and faded maps. As she inspected the maps, she noticed red markings and annotations that suggested Margaret had been tracking certain locations over many years. The maps detailed areas of the town and beyond, marking sites where artifacts might still lie hidden, evidence of a long-forgotten investigation. Her exploration continued, and in the lowest drawer of the desk, Suzanne found a thick yellow envelope with no label. Her heart pounded as she opened it and discovered a photograph and a letter addressed directly to her. The letter, written in Margaret's distinctive, graceful hand, explained that the cabin had been left to Suzanne for a reason. Margaret had been involved in a secret investigation into local corruption and the illicit excavation of historical artifacts. She had gathered evidence, notes, maps, photographs, detailing the nefarious activities of certain local officials and criminal organizations. In a final urgent plea, the letter instructed Suzanne to deliver all of Margaret's findings to the proper authorities in the neighboring county, warning her not to bring them to the local police, whom Margaret claimed could not be trusted. Stunned and overwhelmed, Suzanne felt a surge of responsibility. Margaret's words were clear. Her neighbor had spent her final years documenting a hidden web of crime and corruption, and now, through this unexpected inheritance, Suzanne was to be the one to carry on that work. Unsure of what to do next, but determined to honor Margaret's legacy, Suzanne gathered the maps, photographs, and notes and carefully returned to her car. The drive to the neighboring county was long and fraught with anxiety. As she navigated winding country roads, Suzanne's mind raced with questions about Margaret's secret life. Why had the kindly old lady, known for her gentle demeanor and homemade biscuits, devoted herself to uncovering a criminal network? And why had she chosen Suzanne to be the one to reveal it? The answers, Suzanne hoped, lay hidden within the evidence that she now possessed. Arriving at the police station in the neighboring county, a small, modest building in a quiet town, Suzanne was met by a stern officer who directed her to a detective named Harris. In his office, she spread out the yellow envelope, maps, photographs, and Margaret's handwritten letter across a worn wooden desk. Detective Harris listened intently as Suzanne recounted her discovery of the cabin and the contents of the letter. His eyes narrowed as he examined the evidence, and slowly he began to piece together the incredible story behind Margaret's secret. Harris explained that Margaret had once been an archaeologist, but her passion for preserving history had led her to uncover evidence of a criminal network involved in the illegal excavation and trafficking of ancient artifacts in their county. Though she had worked quietly and in secret for many years, Margaret's meticulous records had finally grown too important to keep hidden. The maps and photographs revealed hidden excavation sites, and the red markings on the documents indicated areas where valuable artifacts had been confiscated by corrupt officials. Detective Harris's voice was grave as he confirmed that Margaret had trusted Suzanne to complete her work. "Your neighbor was a brave woman," he said softly. "She believed that the truth must be exposed, even if it meant going against powerful interests." In the days that followed, Suzanne's discovery set off a chain reaction. With Margaret's evidence in hand, authorities obtained search warrants and launched a full-scale investigation into the corrupt network that had long exploited local historical sites for profit. Several local officials were arrested, and hidden stashes of rare artifacts were uncovered in private estates throughout the region. The story quickly made headlines, and Suzanne found herself thrust into the center of a major criminal investigation, a role she had never imagined she would play. Though initially overwhelmed by the attention, Suzanne soon recognized that Margaret's legacy was being honored. Her neighbor's painstaking research had finally led to the exposure of a network that had stolen from the community's heritage for decades. As the investigation unfolded, Suzanne was invited to speak at local events and share her experience, inspiring others to look beyond the surface of everyday life to uncover hidden truths. Yet, even as justice was served and the corrupt officials were brought to account, Suzanne could not shake the profound impact of her inheritance. The mysterious cabin, once a forgotten relic, had transformed her life and given her a sense of purpose. It was a constant reminder that sometimes the most unexpected gifts come with burdens, but also with the opportunity to make a difference. Suzanne returned to the cabin one last time, not to linger in the past, but to honor Margaret's memory by clearing away the dust and cobwebs and preserving the legacy of the research that had changed everything. Standing in the silent, musty corridor of the cabin's basement, Suzanne gently touched the faded pages of Margaret's journal. Every word, every map, and every photograph was a testament to a life dedicated to uncovering the truth, regardless of the cost. In that moment, Suzanne felt a quiet resolve settle over her. Margaret's work would not be in vain. The evidence was being used to safeguard the community's heritage, and Suzanne's unexpected inheritance had become a beacon of justice. As Suzanne left the cabin that day, the old brass key still clutched tightly in her hand, she knew that her life had been irrevocably changed. The bizarre adventure that began with a mysterious letter had opened her eyes to hidden histories and the enduring power of truth. Suzanne's journey had taken her from a place of quiet familiarity to the very heart of a secret investigation, and in doing so, she had helped expose a web of corruption that would alter her community forever. Her story serves as a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary paths are hidden in the most unexpected places, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to follow their curiosity. Margaret's legacy, preserved in the dusty corners of an old cabin, would continue to inspire and empower, ensuring that truth and justice prevail, even in the face of overwhelming odds.